everyone, thanks for joining me for another cup of Liber-Tea. It's been a while since I've made one of these videos, but I was prompted to sit down and just carve out a few minutes to do so by a lecture that I've just listened to by a guy that I hope all of you have already discovered, a guy called Jordan Peterson, Professor Jordan Peterson. Now he's making huge waves, mostly on YouTube, but he's also getting a lot of media attention, getting a lot of speaking gigs. And if you know who he is, you don't need me to tell you why. If you don't know who he is, get on YouTube as soon as you're on YouTube, right? After you've watched this, stick his name in the search box and see why I've been watching him. Me and of the order of 1 million other people who've recently discovered him and his wisdom and deep insights. He's a clinical psychologist, and I've been going through actually one of his major lecture courses, and I went through like 10 two-hour lectures of his. I stopped like a month ago because, as I say, I got busy with other things. But today I was just spending time listening to another one of his lectures, which was entitled something like 12 Principles of Conservatism for the 21st Century or something like that. And whereas this guy is not interested in doing politics directly, a lot of folks with a political bent, like myself, have got very interested in what he's doing, because what he's doing is, well, he's doing many things, but one of the things he's doing is talking about the relationship between personality and politics and political conviction. But he's also really into the importance of maintaining free speech, and he's a student of, I don't mean he is a student, but he has studied extensively what causes totalitarian, authoritarian regimes to take hold. And he talks a lot about that. And if you're interested in liberty, especially in its manifestation in practice, as opposed to just, theoretical, abstract notions of liberty, then you need to listen to Jordan Peterson. Anyway, I was listening to him today give this lecture to this conservative audience. And it's just prompted me to say something that I've been thinking about for months. And I still haven't kind of resolved it in my head. But you know what? Sometimes it's just useful to know what people are thinking about, right? And it is this. I got involved in politics in the US in about 2011. And as many of you know, I kind of made my name at the beginning of my involvement in politics with the whole Blue Republican phenomenon, which was a name I gave to liberals, progressives, readers of the Huffington Post, which was where the article that I wrote that launched this phenomenon was published. It refers to these progressive types who switched parties to the Republican Party back in 2011, 2012 to support Ron Paul as the pro-peace, pro-civil rights candidate running for president at that time. But of course he was a Republican, so it meant that if you were on the peace wing of the left of American politics, or you were a big civil rights guy, and obviously I am, then you had to switch parties if you were going to vote for the guy who had the track record on civil rights and peace, and a couple of other things I mentioned in the article. Now, the reason I say that is the media attention that I got, which was like nothing compared to what Jordan Peterson's getting, but yeah, the small amount of attention that I got for creating that coalition from the left to vote ostensibly more to the right, or at least to join the right-wing party. It's a bit of a misnomer, but obviously, Democrats on the left, Republicans on the right. The attention that I got because I am good at finding common ground. I'm about teaching people to unify across division. I am about seeking to understand before being understood, because actually understanding someone is the best way to be understood. I'm about forming relationships with people that you may instinctively be made uncomfortable by because of what you believe you know about them or their views. So where most people do opposition and division, right, which are rife in politics, I'm about understanding and common ground and looking for the sameness. And I believe, and you can read my book and you can read my articles and hear speeches I've given, that we have more in common. It's a cliche, but it's true. We have more in common both as human beings, both as and Americans, than divides us in so many ways. And yet, something that's become increasingly clear to me, which is also evident if you read my more recent stuff, is that we are facing a, dare I say, existential threat to our tradition of liberty. I mean, there are people who, in the name of rights, want to eliminate our rights to free speech, and indeed many others. We obviously live in an age where, to keep us secure, people want to, the powers that be want to eliminate our rights. And, in as much as the far left and the far right both want to eliminate our rights, they are not in opposition to each other. They are the same thing. There is an illiberal left and there is an illiberal right. And they seem to have all the attention right now. And so I was listening to that lecture by Jordan Peterson, and he added a data point to this concern of mine and the concern of millions of other Americans, which is that he spoke to recently 10 of the top 20 journalists, the most influential journalists in Canada. He's a Canadian. And every single one, 10 out of 10, so that's highly statistically significant, said they are censoring themselves now. So the most important, in some respects, formers of public opinion in a liberal democracy, Canada, are scared to say what they honestly believe. Now, let's just be clear. These are not all conservatives. Actually, they probably lean the other way, being in the media in Canada. But the moderate liberals are feeling scared to speak out because of what you might call the radical left, what certainly Jordan Peterson calls the radical left. Now, if there is an existential threat to our rights, to our basic rights, like the freedom of speech, from an increasingly vocal and powerful element of our polity, then at some point you have to draw a battle line. At some point you say, I haven't got time to do the common ground thing now. Now, I don't quite mean that, because of course I always have time for the common ground thing, but some people don't want to play that game. Some people just want to accuse, they just want to divide, they want to set themselves up as morally superior to you so that they can harm you, sometimes physically, sometimes through the taking of rights. And these people are in the ascendancy in some places, especially in the academies, in the universities. And as Jordan Peterson says, what goes on in the universities happens in real life, right? 5 years later. I am really concerned about the illiberal left. I'm really concerned about the illiberal right, but I'm kind of more concerned about the illiberal left, but that might be to do with my temperament. Truth precedes liberty. If you cannot tell the truth as you see it, once you give up on that, leave. Game over. Done. So here's what I'm trying to work out. I am prepared to draw the line now and to kind of not spend the time trying to find common ground with people who aren't interested in it. When it comes to free speech, if you would start fining people for not saying the things that you want them to say, which is actually now law in Canada, and then putting them in prison if they don't pay the fine, you are building a totalitarian society. You're doing it. You've started. I'm the common ground guy for liberty. I always will be. But I also know that sometimes you've got to stop bending over, or you just got to refuse to bend over. So it's time to just say, I'm on that side. I'm on the side of 1,000-year tradition of painstakingly won liberty and recognition of the value of the individual. And I am passionate about our need to understand the process, the messy historical process by which that was won. And I'm fundamentally passionate about my right that people who, I was going to say feel as I do, but people who feel anything get to be able to have the argument in public without being shouted down, without being shut down, without being on the receiving end of violence, as it started to happen in some campuses. You know, I am all about the honest intellectual inquiry and understanding of human nature and the importance of human liberty that is a concern of Jordan Peterson's, is a concern of Jonathan Haidt's, who wrote The Righteous Mind, is a concern of, I think, an increasing number of people, but not yet enough. It is not okay. We have to fight back on the language. We have to admit political agendas where they exist. We have to resist being told we are in some way lesser because we don't sign up to one kind of collectivism or another. These people, call them what you will, the radical left, social justice warriors, whatever it is, and certainly the ones on the other side, on the right, they're not liberal. We've got to stop giving them that name. I'm liberal. Properly liberal. John Stuart Mill liberal. Live and let live liberal. Dare I say, I've got on the wall up here a copy of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. I'm a constitutional liberal, in the proper sense of the word. There are many more of us out there. I think I have a responsibility. This is where I'm going with this. I think I now have a responsibility, given the state of our culture and our society, to declare where I stand and to refuse to be cowed in what I say. And the reason that's an issue for me is because I manage what I say very carefully because of the benefits of finding common ground. I will continue to do so. I will continue to teach how that is done. I will continue to teach the selling and marketing of the most important ideas in our liberal Western tradition. The ideas of liberty and freedom and justice and responsibility that go with it. I will continue to seek to understand before being understood. But now, when I find myself in a place where the people on the receiving end aren't interested in that, they are interested in only in making me and people like me the bogeymen, I'm not going to play the game. And I think, and here's the optimistic bit, I think the number of people like me, like us, is now rising. I think the pendulum has hit peak illiberalism, peak SJW, peak, dare I say, cultural authoritarianism, at least, you know, peak within the parameters of what our tradition, our Western tradition, has typically kind of allowed, right? But we will see, won't we? We live in interesting times. Thank you, everyone. It's good to chat with you. Take care. Bye.